tiny offices equipped with a phone and computer line a corridor. This is where members of Congress sit behind closed doors and plow through lists of donors, dialing for dollars. Outside in the main hallway is a big board where the amount each member has raised for the party is posted for all to see and compare.
It is a cult-like boiler room on Capitol Hill where sitting members of Congress, frankly, I believe, are compromising the dignity of the office they hold by sitting in these sweatshop phone booths calling people, asking them for money. And their only goal is to get $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 out of the person on the other end of the line. It's shameful. It's beneath the dignity of the office that our voters and our communities entrust us to serve.
That was Republican Congressman David Jolly last night on 60 Minutes, pushing back against the current system that demands members of Congress use large portions of their time to call people for money. Congressman Jolly is also a candidate for Florida Senate seat, and he joins us now. Good to have you on board.
Hey, great to be with you. Good.
How can they do it without money?
That's a good question. Listen, we all know the amount of money in politics, right? We all have different ideas, different solutions.
Yeah.
This is about the amount of time it takes to raise it.
It's unbelievable.
Right? Let's pull the curtain back and realize you have members of Congress who are spending 20 to 30 hours a week.
Is that what you elected them for? That's what you have to think about.
You're paying them $174,000 a year, and they're spending half their time shaking down the American people for money instead of doing their job.
It's depressing.
So what's the solution then?
Okay, so I introduced the STOP Act. Listen, I've wrestled with conservative solutions to campaign finance. This is less campaign finance and more a congressional reform.
Right.
In 30 states, judges who are on the ballot are prohibited from directly soliciting money. In the state of Florida, our state legislators are prohibited from directly soliciting money while they're in session. This applies those rules. I introduced the STOP Act. It's 4 pages. I joke every member can read it before they vote on it. It's 4 pages. It simply prohibits the direct solicitation of a campaign contribution by a sitting member of Congress.
Well, that just sounds
Challengers are left out of this bill.
So how do you raise money?
So your campaign operation would still exist, right? You'd still have a fundraiser, you'd have a campaign manager. They could still operate the campaign committee, but the member would put down the phone and get back to work.
You just can't ask for the money yourself.
Right. This is about getting back to work. Whatever your issue is as a voter, if it's border security, immigration, national security, tax reform, you're frustrated because nothing's getting done, right? That's because you've got a Congress that's not even doing their job.
Then it's going to be a race, Nick, though, to get the best fundraiser.
Right. So campaign finance, right, is a supply and a demand problem. This is the demand side. The supply side is the money.
Sure.
And I wonder, there are proposals out there in Congress right now for various kinds of small donor matching, public subsidies, taxpayer subsidies, mostly from Democrats.
Right.
What's your opinion of those kinds of things to take off some of the pressure to actually raise the money in the first place?
So I would be happy as a Republican to join a coalition to address campaign finance reform. How do we protect the constitutional right of any individual to participate with reasonable regulations? You know what I really want to do? The British model. Take political ads off of television using the FCC regulation. How about that one, right? But that will take years to get to a bipartisan campaign finance reform package. This is about getting Congress back to work. We can do this right now. If we cultivate the constructive anger of the American people that you've got a part-time Congress in a full-time world who's failing to even show up and do their job, we can pass the STOP Act.
I love that you're doing this. Members of Congress, when they complain to me about how much time they have to spend fundraising, I said, just don't do it. Find another way to communicate. Are there criminal penalties for members who violate this?
Actually, so this falls into the FEC code, and so the initial penalties are civil, but based on egregious violations, it can be referred to a prosecutor for criminal. So I joke, next time a member of Congress calls you for money, call the police.
Could you go speak to a group of donors under your legislation and not ask them for money?
You can. You can update people on the race, you can attend, you can talk about what you're doing in Congress, but you're prohibited. You can't make the ask.
Could you spend time in that boiler room making phone calls to people, asking how their kids are, tell them how important your campaign is? You could, right?
So you could, but here's the important thing.
You wouldn't have to do that because the only reason you walk across the street to do that is because the ask. Well, if you're not making the ask, you can sit in your office and call.
Some incompetent members go over there and don't make the ask.
Well, but here's the thing. To Joe's point, it's illegal in your Capitol office, in your congressional office, to solicit funds. But if you're not soliciting funds, you can call constituents all day long from your office doing your job.
It was a horrible process, and I was horrible at it. No, seriously, I raised most of my money in the district face-to-face because I did not want to walk over there and sit in a cube and call these people.
I'm trying to give
miserable.
my colleagues breathing room. I'm not trying to beat them up. I'm beating up the system. Joe, a lot of people don't know this. I voted for you in 1994 in Pensacola, Florida.
I bet you're sorry you did.
I don't know if you should
because
say that.
you went on public television. I remember this.
Right.
You had these half-hour shows on public television to get your message out.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Today's world is dominated by high finance, and it's wrong. We got to fix it. Let's get Congress back to work.
It was Blab TV.
It was great.
It was public access. It was $50 a half
cheap.
hour.
That's right.
Because nobody would go on it because it was supposedly so
So it's
low.
just like color bars?
And I just bought 24 hours, and I would just talk and have my sign behind me, have a fun, call me.
Why are we not surprised?
Listen, he was an outsider running against the chairman of the county commission.
Yeah.
And you came with this message of reform and let's fix Washington.
Yeah.
Why is it that only retiring members of Congress are willing to lament the amount of time they spent raising money, right?
Oh, yeah.
Steve Israel's column, Tom Daschle, Trent Lott.
I know.
They write books.
They're also
Do it while you're in there.
And they're selling you a book for $30 now. They're still trying to get your money, right? So let's do it now.
Yeah.
Let's pass the STOP Act.
So what's
right
the problem?
Totally
I'm
agree.
sure you've gotten a great response, and everyone's going to get behind you, right?
Listen, I'm not dumb. I went to the American people first. Instead of going to my leadership, they'd kill it. So we've got the stopact.com. You can sign a petition, email your Congress. Listen, members of Congress have been calling you for years. Now it's time for you to call them.
You know, also one of the answers too, and this will upset Democrats and Republicans. First of all, you need to raise the individual limits, so you're not calling everybody here. Raise the limits high. Let people give what they want to give. On one side, Democrats will hate that. Republicans will hate transparency immediately. The second they give you that big check, you scan it, you put it out. It gets rid of the dark money. It gets rid of the need to sit in there forever. Yeah, so you know who's giving you the money, and they can write bigger checks because right now it's a scam. You know, you got hunting dogs giving giving you checks.
That's right.
Have you heard from your colleagues on this? Because everybody makes these complaints off the record,
right?
But never on the record.
So I think we have 6 co-sponsors. That's 6 more than I anticipated.
Wow.
Right? I think we're gonna right.
It's a start.
But I did. As I asked members and colleagues to support it, they'd say, "Oh boy, I'd love to, but I can't do that." I actually went to my Democratic opponents in the Senate primary, in the Senate race in Florida, and said, "If you'll co-sponsor this, I won't push you to take the pledge to stop raising money." I took the pledge in January. I no longer directly solicit money. But I begged my Democratic opponents in this race, co-sponsor it, and I'll get your back and say, you don't need to take the pledge now. Let's just change the system. But they're in a race. So
Congressman, thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck.
You.
Greatly
Great to
appreciate
see
you dropping by.
Appreciate what you're doing. Congressman
you.
David Jolly, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. That does it for us this morning.
It's time to talk about what we
That's
learned.
it.
No, we're going to talk about